Hey everybody, this is Coach Stacie here with Coach Allie. We are on week 2 of working on creating a belief that is going to fuel your gymnasts through competition season. So, we talk a ton about thoughts create our feelings and feelings create our actions, and then our actions get us our results. And so at that core is those thoughts. But kind of, we have all those like fleeting thoughts, and then we have beliefs. And then we have identity beliefs. And those identity beliefs are really driving everything that your gymnast does, especially when it comes to being out on the floor to meet. And so we want to help create an identity belief that's going to be really powerful. So if you didn't listen to last week, of course, as we do every month, everything builds upon each other. So you got to start by choosing one. And we talk all about that last week. So go back and listen to last week's. But this week, what we're going to do is we're going to first, instead of trying to jump from, you know, I'm a terrible competitor to, I can handle anything that happens in a meet, or I can't handle disappointment to I can handle any feeling, or, instead of trying to do this big jump, we're going to first get to neutral. So, Allie, tell us all about getting to neutral, what that means.
Okay, so we talk a lot about thoughts and circumstances here. And a circumstance is something that everybody in the entire world can agree upon. It is a fact in this world. And a thought is basically anything that has like judgment or opinion that gives that circumstance meaning. And so what happens though is we start believing our thoughts to be true and we think that our thoughts are circumstances. So, like your gymnast believes it's just a fact that she's terrible at bars because she tends to score lower on that event than all of the other events. Okay. So, what happens is she now believes that I'm terrible at bars as a circumstance, but that can't be the case because other people could disagree. So, why does this matter? Circumstances are actually neutral and have no emotion or anything added to it yet. When you say I'm terrible at bars, that is not neutral. That does not feel good. That does not that does not feel good. But when you believe it's true and you believe it's a fact, then you can't change it. And that's where they get stuck. And if they believe that they're terrible at bars, they're never going to reach their bar goals, right? Like that's just how it goes. Okay, so that was kind of like a big, like, upcoming into this one situation. So, why is it important to get to neutral? Because you want to find what the actual fact is so that you can understand what's truthful. And then you get to decide later what your thoughts are about it. If you don't find the fact, the neutral part of it, then it's hard to change your thoughts. So, in this situation, working bars is neutral. I work bars and gymnastics. Neutral. There's no emotion. Everybody works bars. That's
Ours
one.
is an event in gymnastics.
Yeah, there we go. That's even better. Bars is an event in gymnastics. Neutral. Okay. Anytime you start saying, I'm good at it, I'm bad at it, blah, 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 then that's when it starts having the emotion added to it. And so our goal here is to help the girls understand what the facts are and what things are just thoughts. And that's kind of where you can get them to neutral because the neutral belief is one, usually way better than the negative belief they're already believing. So, like, if right now they believe I'm bad at bars and you get them to just think bars is an event, that is already going to be more helpful to them because it's neutral and not a negative feeling, right? And then also, they can see that it's not the truth. It's not the truth that they're bad at bars. It is a thought that they're bad at bars. And so, some of the things that we help them with neutral thoughts on, I just like to throw them out there, or is like, this is a score because they get really attached to what a score means. So,
Mhm.
I like to be like a 9.5, and then everybody will be like, that's amazing. And I'm like, oh, but then this college gymnast got a 9.5, and they're like, oh, that's not good. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It's the same score. And everybody will argue with me right now and be like, well, the judging is different and that's different and blah, 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 blah. Does not matter. Take all the drama out. Either way, it's still the same exact number. And we're giving meaning to that number based on our thoughts about how the judging is different, about how everything else is different. So, taking away the emotion from scores can be super helpful and saying like this is the score and then you get to decide. Um this
I
is
love that
one.
one for, like,
Oh,
falls, right?
yeah.
Because they're like, "Well, I the meet was great, but I had a terrible vault." And I'm like, "Okay, why was vault terrible?" "Because I fell on vault." And I'm like, "Okay, well, how much did you get a deduction from your fall?" "Well, 5/10." And I'm like, "Okay, how what did you score on beam?" "An 8.9." And I'm like, "Oh, did you get more than 5/10 of deductions on beam?" "Yeah." "But was beam good?" "Yeah, beam was great. I had no wobbles, I made everything, da, da, da." And it's like 5/10 is 5/10 is 5/10. Doesn't matter if that 5/10 comes from bent knees or unpointed toes or not being all on the releve or lack of dynamics and artistry, or if it comes from a fall. All the deductions are neutral, they're all the same, but somehow we give the 5/10 that comes from a fall or a point if you're an elite is, like, really terrible, but if 5/10 comes from, like, knees being apart, that's okay, and it's like, there's no judgment there, it's just 5/10. So, yeah,
Mhm.
keep going.
No, I love that, but, like, that's the whole point. I mean, what are we doing? We're taking the emotion out of it
Yeah.
because in order to start being, realistic with yourself and truthful with yourself, you have to do that. This is where I'm at. I love this is 1 out of 10 meets. There are girls that make, like, one bad meet or their very first meet where they're competing a new level and they're trying to figure out so much stuff and they fall a couple of times and then they make it mean that they're like this horrible competitor and they can't compete and they can't do this level and you're like, bro, this is your first meet. Like this is 1 out of 10. This is
Yeah.
1 out of 10 meets. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. So I have 9 more times to try or whatever this is. This is where I'm at. This is my dismount,
Mhm.
making a skill be a neutral fact rather than it being like, "This is the hardest dismount I've ever had," or whatever it might be. This is my dismount. And so finding neutral, is going to be the next step in order to be able to change the thoughts to the positive ones in the future. So, Stacie, what do you struggle with when your gymnasts are trying to go from their negative, like, belief to this neutral thought? What is some of the most, like, brain drama, I guess we can say, that you get from the gymnast?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the biggest part is arguing that it's not true. Like, there's just a lot of times where they're like, "No, it is true that I'm bad at dance. It is true that I'm bad at bars. I have lots of evidence for it." So some of the times with those gymnasts, I go an opposite way, and instead of trying to argue whether or not it's true, I just ask them to start talking to their brain about whether or not it serves them.
Mhm,
I kind of, like, redefine for them, like, what's a fact in the way that we talk about facts. A fact is something that everyone would agree upon. And, like, would somebody who knows nothing about gymnastics think that you're bad at bars? They might actually think that you're pretty good at bars because you can do a lot of amazing things. So not everyone in the world would agree upon that as true. Would a level 3 think you're good at bars? Like, not everyone would agree that that's true. So it's not a fact, but your brain is gonna keep arguing it. So let's not argue whether or not it's true. Just, does this serve you? When you think this, do you get the result that you want? So I was working with a gymnast this last week, and she's kind of really stuck in this, like, I'm certain that if I don't do the first skill in a connection correctly, I'm going to get injured doing the second skill. And so she's really had trouble putting her skills together. Well, that belief, she's so certain it's true. But we've talked round and round about all the examples and all the evidence of where this isn't true and how you learn how to make corrections midair to keep yourself safe and da 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 da. And she knows it intellectually, but she still believes she's gonna get hurt. And so I finally this week was like, let's stop worrying about whether it's true or not. Does this serve you? Because you're not getting your connections. And so, like, does this serve you? And she's like, no, it doesn't serve me. I'm like, are you going to be able to compete the level you want to compete this season if you continue to believe this? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, then every time your brain goes down that route, let's just go back to this thought doesn't serve me. And
Mhm.
loosening that up has helped her, start to move more towards that neutral. Like, I'm doing two skills would be the neutral part of it.
Mhm.
But I also wanted to come back to like giving some examples if they're not working on like a skill or an event, but if it's some of those deeper things, like
Mhm.
my performance or I'm worthy no matter how I perform. So neutral might be I'm a human.
Mhm.
And then the next is all humans are intrinsically worthy and valuable um because they're human. And so like I'm a human. Instead of trying to get to like I'm worthy, let's just get to like I'm a human. For I can feel any feeling. I have emotions. Emotions are part of being a human. I feel feelings. Like, just kind of getting there. What's another one that we talk a lot about that's more on the like identity level?
Um,
Um, Other people have feelings.
yes, there we go.
So the like, kind of that I'm responsible for other people's feelings and I'm afraid to disappoint people. Like, just people feel disappointed. That's just neutral.
And comparing to others,
Yeah.
that comes up a lot, and helping them just come to, like, she is a gymnast, I am a gymnast.
Yes.
We are each gymnasts,
Yeah.
and, like, that is completely neutral,
Yeah.
and, that can be a big one,
Yeah.
especially this time of year when we're, like, ready for a level or not ready for a level, and, like, we're starting to get scores and you're comparing yourself to others, just bringing them back to, like, she's a gymnast and I am a gymnast,
Yeah.
and just helping them get to that point.
Um, I have a few gymnasts that, are struggling with their coaches. And so their neutral is my coach is a human. Like, just they're human. They're human too.
Yeah.
And so just kind of being able to get to these neutral points is the first step. It's that loosening up
Mhm.
um of the belief that it's true. Because that's really where they stay stuck is this like belief that it's true and arguing, and their brain wants to argue so hard for that truth.
Mhm.
And partly some of the times too, like I find if they're really getting stuck in this, and this is probably beyond what you would ever do in the gym, but what we do in mindset coaching is sometimes if they're stuck in this like thing, trying to figure out how it's protecting them.
Mm,
So,
mhm,
like, their brain is often afraid of going out there and being successful. Like, we're actually as afraid of our own success as we are of our own failure. And so, our brain can sometimes perceive that being too successful is also dangerous because other kids might not like us. They might be
mhm,
jealous of us. My teammates are going to say mean things to me if I win all around. I mean, I've had a few kids who had significant mental blocks for years, and the source of the mental block was other kids aren't going to like me if I'm too good.
mhm.
And
Like,
so
what if
that
I get a scholarship and my best friend doesn't?
yeah. And so that mental block protects them from that issue,
Mhm,
even though it doesn't give them what they want. Which is to, be able to go out and do their gymnastics. So sometimes we can like if they're really stuck, it sometimes requires figuring out what that is protecting them from because their brain will like hold on tight if their brain thinks that's protecting them. But for you guys in the gym, that's a little deep. Maybe
yeah.
send them to us for that one. Um, which I do wanna say we are opening up a lot of slots for just one-on-one coaching. We've been focused kind of in the, past things as we've talked to you guys about our group membership and our, um, and and that, but we're really focusing on some private coaching right now and seeing a lot of really great results with kids that we're working with. So if you do have those kids, send them to us. And we also believe that it's not just kids that are struggling that need to learn these tools. It's kids that want to go far. Um,
Yeah.
Really, every human needs to learn these tools. I wish they taught them in the third grade, to be honest. Like this is something that we all need to learn how, but High level gymnasts really need to know how to manage their mind. They have so much to manage their mind about, but I digress. Coming back, getting to neutral. Um, so for you in the gym, just helping and so even if you're not doing this whole process of helping your kid build a thought ladder over the next month, one way that you can just do this in the gym is just when you see your gymnast kind of really like latched on to a thought that's not helping them, latched onto a belief, is just trying to help them like get to neutral instead of trying to tell like, like you'll be like, "You've got this." Like, they don't believe that yet. So just go to like, "You're doing bars today,"
Mhm.
and start talking about it in a neutral way with them, and that will help them start thinking about it in a more neutral way.
Yeah.
Anything else, Allie?
Honestly, just that, like, sometimes the neutral thought feels super silly. Like,
Yeah.
"I am a human." You're like, "Okay, that's stupid." But it is way more powerful than you can imagine, and, like, detaching from the negative belief to something that's so factual that your brain can't argue with is really, really powerful. So, like, you just kinda gotta accept, like, some of the things, like, this is a skill, and you're like, "Well, no, duh." But, like, that is what's going to help you get there, even though it feels silly. So that's just really my disclaimer there. Because
Yeah.
when the first time I was told to think, somebody else actually, it was more like wasn't a coach, but like he is a human. I was like, this is the dumbest thing of my life. But then it ended up being the most life changing part of me being able to move on from my issues. So,
Yeah. And I think that, yeah, for me too, like first 40 years of my life, I was very stuck in my value only comes from what I do.
mhm.
And trying to believe that I was just worthy just because I'm a human. I kept trying and that didn't work. But when I just went to starting to just tell myself, I am a human, I already had the belief that humans are worthy and valuable because they're human. So
Mhm.
once I could finally get me to like, I am a human, then the next one came fast. But when I tried to skip that, I couldn't get there. And that belief, I mean, I do genuinely deeply believe I am worthy and valuable no matter my performance now. And that was not true. It took this work to get me there and it's been life changing. So do it with your gymnasts and do it for yourselves.
Yeah, honestly.
So, all right, we'll see you guys next week. We are going to be just talking through the thought ladder and how you take your gymnast through it. Bye.
Bye.